Tomorrow, if MedFarm gets replaced by another LLM, who's going to connect it to the right LLM? It's going to be this guy, who's really invested in solving the problem. It's the entrepreneur. And why is he doing that? Because, he or she has a vested interest in making, they've got a purpose which is defined for their lives, which is to solve this, right? And that's where I feel they're the ones who will eventually succeed.
Karan, thank you so much for joining in today for the second episode of our podcast. And thank you so much for taking our time. For people who do not know Karan, Karan is an Oxford alumnus. He has built technology companies across the world, from startups to Fortune 500 companies. He's been the founder of Launch Ventures, one of the leading mid-sized tech consulting firms in the country, and also a co-founder of Flying Superheroes. 90s kids who are into superhero stuff would know what it is. And he's one of the few people who I know who has successfully built products in the tech and non-tech space. And welcome again to the show. So we will revolve our discussion largely around businesses in tech consulting and how you see the landscape evolving in the coming years. Right. So you have been in the space for the past 15, 20 years, and in this time we have seen a lot of tech consulting companies come and go, and the technology has been evolving in a really fast pace. What is the secret sauce for you to kind of survive in this space and emerge as a successful firm in India?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for inviting, Vishnu. It's great to be here and great to see you guys do this. Looking forward to more exciting podcasts in the future. So coming to your question about, what's been the secret sauce. It's a lot of learnings from previous failures, and having done things in the past which kind of made me realize, even in starting launch, what could help it succeed and or help it sustain. And many years ago when I started this, I remember telling myself that now whatever I start, I definitely don't want to fail. Okay, if you don't want to fail, then keep doing it, even if it boils down to just you doing it, right? And whether you make money or not, whether you get to where you wanted to or not, whether you have people in your team or not, you just keep doing it, and that's what I essentially did, So over the last, it's been 15 years or so, we just kept doing what we set out to do, and which is build great products in partnership with industry experts. That was our initial goal, and it came out of a real need gap that we realized existed, in the products that I had built myself. But I think that need gap wasn't what got us here. It was, I feel, the persistence with which we kept at it, no matter what the outcome, no matter what the highs and lows. And along the way, how we assimilated our learnings, so from whatever experience we had, how we put that together into a framework of how we are going to run the organization forward. That's essentially, I feel, what helped. And over the years, what happens is that as a founder, a lot of the early years are driven by your leadership, your guidance, your thought process. And after a few years, you realize that, you need to step away and let the others lead. And that transition is really key to sustainability. And how you do that, how you navigate that, I think is really key in providing that sustenance power to an organization. So for that, what I think we did really well was we embodied this learning and sort of the value system with which I had been trying to lead the organization into a really good framework, which provided a guiding force for the rest of the team. And we empowered them to take decisions and make mistakes. And I think that's where I feel, we've come all this far, and now I rarely get into key decisions. The team drives it. They feel motivated, and we just, question them on our value system. Are you following these values? I mean, that's how we sort of look at things. I think that's been, I would say, the secret, if you will.
So, Karan, one of your core skills is like building teams, right? Building large teams, right? And in the tech space, it's hard to retain talent. How do you do that? I mean, there was this space, probably not 2024, when there is, but earlier in 2020, 2022, there's a lot of opportunities for people to go and look out for other jobs. And in a consulting business, you are always looking out for hiring new people, but you still need that the top management to be there sticking with you, like you just said. How did you manage that? I mean, isn't that the most challenging piece in the puzzle?
It is. I mean, it sure is. And it's extremely hard. But I feel more important than focusing on retention, I think it's important to focus on people who you're working with and treat them like your partners. Treat them like as if you were in their place, right? So I think you need to have a very high level of empathy. So, I mean, even before you do that, actually, the first step is making sure you hire the right people. You hire people who you believe have potential and they match with your value system. They match in the way you think, and you feel like they are really driven to build a career in the space you are. Once you've found the right people, and it's often not at the interview stage you will be able to do that. It's only over time. So over the first couple of years, probably you'll understand whether your team members are really the ones who are the right fit. And once you understand that, and even for the ones that who are not going to be a right fit and who are going to be there with you for a short while, I feel it's important to think about what's best for them, right? I mean, how will they succeed? Because I really feel like people fail or succeed because of two things, either capability or motivation. So if you've done a good job, you've hired capable people, then what's really the onus really is on you to make sure you're providing them the right motivation. And that's the tricky bit. That's where you will not realize when the motivation goes away, and people won't tell you that in the first instance. So I think it's really caring deeply about them, really taking the time out to think hard about them and let them think about the problems that you want to solve. So you don't get into solving problems. You let them solve the problems and you solve their problems, right? So I think thinking in that manner really helps. And anticipating when they're feeling, bogged down, where they're struggling, whether they are also growing or not. I think that's really key. And often, even for people who are not seeming like a right fit or their careers are sort of digressing, helping them go on that career, right? That helps build that trust. So for me, like I've always treated my team members as partners. I've built economic structures in the company around giving them a part ownership in the company over time. I think all of these things help, but they only help if they understand what that means and they're already invested in the growth as their own company. So that's
Now, in the last 1 year, there's been a massive development in the AI space, and we have the GitHub Copilot launched, which is making waves. There is also a fear around programmers being replaced by AI, and we strongly feel that that's going to happen, at least for the junior level programs. How do you see the consulting business change? Earlier, we had in consulting companies in 500, 150, 200, maybe 1,000 engineers, and the last chunk of these engineers will be a young folks who are doing the ground work. Right? If that's going to get replaced by technology, how do you think hiring, building teams, all those things change in the coming few years?
Yeah, sure. No, I think I'm very optimistic about AI and the advancements that it's going to bring. Of course, there's a lot of smokes and mirrors around the various tools and the various technologies that are coming out. But having said that, I feel it will enable humans to do what humans were meant to do, which is think critically, right? Rather than more manufacturing or industrial jobs. So I see these AI tools really helping humans relieve themselves from these sort of mundane automated tasks, which are now standardized. I mean, they do have some cognitive abilities that you need to do that, but it's going to allow us to think more strategically, think about the direction. Like, I mean, typically how we now have prompt engineering. That's where developers are sort of graduating to in the world of LLMs. So, and that itself is a very vast field. So I think what's important as humans for us is that we need to stay sharp. We need to keep on learning and unlearning certain things. That's going to be important. But I don't see AI as taking away jobs or making humans redundant. I feel it will actually normalize the economic inequality also and allow you to do things that you really enjoy. And if you're a curious person, then it will give you opportunities to learn new things. Whereas you felt your growth is plateauing. So, and as far as consulting is concerned, yeah, I think consulting is going to shift, but it's not going to go away, because if you come to think of it today, right, there are more than tens of thousands of AI tools.
Yeah.
And a lot of large companies are really struggling to understand what to adopt and what not to adopt. There's a huge investment that you need to make in terms of time and money. So at this point in time, where the AI industry itself, like the whole space, is so much in flux, every now and then you hear about a new model, a new approach, a new tool, and then you still don't know whether it's stabilized. A lot of the AI infrastructure, for instance, depends on transformers as a core technology or sort of underlying approach, but you don't know where it's going to hit its limit, and suddenly everything's going to shift to another one. So this is a time when actually consultants can help you, people who are really investing their time in understanding these things, these aspects much more deeply. They play an important role in helping guide these customers or these clients. So that's pretty much like how Web 2.0 was. There was a time when Ruby on Rails was the rage, and then Node became really mainstream, then Python. So I think in this constant flux of technology, consultants, I think, continue to thrive.
So this one thing that you said, companies are struggling to adopt which model to use, what to do to kind of automate their workflows. Like, we have been getting a lot of requests to build workflow automations for large companies. Many of them want to deploy models in their own ecosystems, etc. And I think that's a genuine use case, and people can make the workflows way more efficient. A simple thing that I think I've discussed with you would be large research papers being converted to summaries and then converted to audio. Earlier being done manually with with a lot of effort, time extra being now snap converted. Right? Those things have been great, but at the same time, there are a lot of companies building tools on top of the existing models, which is a small tweak on top of what is already available to solve a specific use case. And one of the fears we discussed is that whether these kind of tools ever survive. Like the next model of any LLM, let's say OpenAI, can probably solve that. So I'm sure you would have also come across a lot of these. What do you think that the future of those kind of products are? Like a good example to start would be, there's this fantastic tool called Write Sonic, and they have hundreds of tools in it. One of the capability there is to help you write, summarize, create a blog, all those things. Right now, the newer models, like GPT-4, helps you generate a tone, write a blog based on that tone, all those things already there in GPT-4, which was sold as a $90 product earlier. They have tons of other features on top, but this was one feature which was widely used. Similarly, if you look at product hunt, every week there is very new products launched. So where do you think the future of these small niche products built on top of let's say OpenAI or Gemini will have? Will they survive? These SaaS tools or will they kind of eaten away my revenue?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question, and very relevant also. A lot of engineers like us, we try and build solutions on top of these already pretty powerful models who themselves could also do this, right? But if you look at the landscape, there's a reason why on top of these, first of all, these models haven't done this. They're not going out there and solving end user problems. They're creating the infrastructure layer. And now we have frameworks coming up on that, patterns coming up on that, agentic workflows, which, for example, are being built on this. And there's a reason why, because I believe that it's not in the remit of OpenAI, or Anthropic to solve end user problems. They're not invested in that. When you build something, even if it takes a little bit of effort, but it solves a big problem and creates a huge amount of value, still worth building. Now, of course, you have to keep evolving it. And who is going to evolve it for that specific use case? Let's say if you build, MedArm's coming out, Google's kind of optimized it for medical domain. If a healthcare professional picks it up and says, I'm going to create a use case or a journey where I'll allow my patients to understand more about their problems and diseases. Now, that might be a small increment, but it will be completely disruptive. And who's going to be invested in continuing to improve it? Tomorrow, if MedFarm gets replaced by another LLM, who's going to connect it to the right LLM? It's going to be this guy, who's really invested in solving the problem. It's the entrepreneur. And why is he doing that? Because, he or she has an a vested interest in making. They've got a purpose which is defined for their lives, which is to solve this, right? And that's where I feel they are the ones who will eventually succeed. I mean, of course, people who build it with a short-term view that, hey, this is a fancy technology, I don't know if I'm going to be there or not after 5 years, that sort of fear-based building will not work. That definitely will not work. So I think tools will not survive which are backed by entrepreneurs or built by entrepreneurs and teams who are not invested in solving the problem. And they're just trying to, take a short-term view of the technology. That's sort of the first answer to your question. And I think at the same time, it's going to be extremely important for tools like this to move fast, because in this, technology is not going to be the leverage you will have. It's the distribution. It's how fast you reach your target market, how convincingly you're able to sell your product. And that conviction again comes from, how much you believe in it. Somewhere it comes from that, how well do you articulate it. So again, I mean, goes back to that, but as an activity, I think it's going to be how quickly, how fast you go to market and how well you build your distribution to reach your target audience. So,
Karan, just going a little off from a technology topic here, since you bought on distribution, yes, you built many products, right? It's not one to any, you have been part of many products. Should we solve for distribution first or the product first? Because it's when a lot of entrepreneurs go out to start building, they're really fascinated about the solution that they're building, and investors a lot of time in very minute aspects of the product, but we spend a year building it and then think about where would I sell it. I know who the customer I'm solving for, but how do I distribute it? So if you are to start something new, forget AI space, like forget technology, would you look at solving for distribution first, or would you solve for the intricate details of the product first?
I would definitely solve for distribution. I mean, it has to go hand in hand. It can't go, there can't be a huge gap in distribution and product. It can't be like you've built a user base and now you don't have a product to sell them. So it has to go hand in hand, but I would definitely start with distribution first and I would stay very close to my customer. So, I mean, a typical playbook in my head would be to go to potential customers who are close and, you can keep going back to who believe that you would, if you end up doing something, you would do something meaningful and it's worth investing that time with you. So you kind of co-create those products with them. You go and ask them, what's the problem that you are trying to solve? Will this sort of an product solve some of your problems? And they really help you a lot in defining what to build. And that's really, really important because, no matter how smart we think we are, I've learned over the years, we are not going to be able to match the collective thought process and the real pain points. We'll never be able to understand the real pain points of our target customer because we're not in their shoes. We're not doing what they do. And I've realized that there are some very, you might find that some reasons why certain products don't work that you build are so stupid. People don't get it, right? I mean, that's sometimes your revelation, but actually people get it. It's the entire system and the industry. Once you start understanding how it is set up, you start seeing the sense in it. Some things are systemic in the way they work. And if you don't understand that, it's going to be really hard to sell the product, no matter how great it is. So that's why I was kind of shifted. I used to be a person who used to build the product first, take it to potential customers, and I've seen those products fail. And I have completely moved the other way. And some of my past experiences, of building, Coco Network, for instance, is a great example, where we have a really solid research team who would get us insights we couldn't believe. This is how it works. And they gave us a really good informed view of what to build. So yes, distribution first, product follows very soon after, but you have to have the agility. And I think in current day and time with AI, you can build these prototypes and working products so quickly. So I think it's a great time to...
So this is something that we have been doing, right? Before building the product, we just use simple tools like a Zapier and build a very, very basic solution. The outcome may not be very deterministic or anything of that sort, but go out and test with users to get a feedback from that. And sometimes we realize that many of the things that we thought were fantastic solutions, people were not very, very, very keen on figuring out or building on top of it. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I think in that process, even you even you annoy a few customers or potential customers, it's okay. They'll forgive you, because if you follow up with a really good product which works for them, they'll be much more forgiving and appreciative than throwing a crappy product at them and saying, "Hey, use this. This is my final."
And now you moved from your base from India in Dubai, right? And, how is the tech space in that part of the world? What is the biggest difference that you see in India with Dubai, and how? And I've seen that the Middle East is emphasizing a lot on companies implementing AI, and I've heard someone saying that they might introduce chief AI officers in companies to research on where or all use case these companies can implement and make things efficient and stuff. So, what is the big shift that you see from India?
Sure. I think both India and Dubai are interesting markets in their own ways. I'm particularly talking about Dubai. It's building a really efficient infrastructure to innovate us. That's the biggest advantage here. You come here, the kind of buzz you have, the kind of support you get, whether it's private or public partnerships, it's unmatched. You focus on solving problems. You focus on building great products. You don't worry about setup time, administrative overheads and bureaucracy. All of those things are a lot lower. Having said that, the local market is very small here, right? So if you're here, you're not building products for the local market. You're solving world problems, right? You're looking to solve global problems. So that's where I think you have to be thinking in terms of your product approach. I think the other aspect is that out here, the talent is still relatively new. You're seeing a lot of talent come into the city, whereas in India, the installed base of talent is really high. You have a lot of people who've solved problems at large scale. Yeah. So I think that's the advantage of India. But I mean, I'm very happy here. I think the kind of interactions you have, the kind of people who are moving here, I see this as a really fast growing, fast emerging leading economy in technology. And I think it's one of the mandates as well. And I think one of the great things is that the government is really proactive here in supporting entrepreneurs. They are investing in you. They're experimenting with you. That's a great thing. I mean, typically for governments to adopt startup products is rarely heard of, in their mainstream products. And here they have a mandate, they have a strategy. There's an AI minister, the minister for AI, who is actually mandating government institutions to try out new products and adopt new products and see if they might. And this is one of the few economies where I've seen the public sector actually leading in technology compared to even the private sector. Yeah, that gives you a lot of hope and optimism.
I'm hoping things are going to change in India as well. I mean, hopefully this will pick up in that pace in India as well. But
I definitely believe it will. I just feel like the sheer size of the economy, right, provides its own limits to what the government can do. But I think it's gradually getting there, and it's making steps.
And probably the focus will be on solving data problems in India. And so that is the technology upgrade or improving the technology landscape would be probably a secondary, tertiary problem in large country like India.
I think India has some great problems to solve. I'm very excited about, I think a lot of people out here also are building products here for India, for instance. Okay. Right? They get a safe environment, a good sort of very high energy environment to build things, because it's also so close to India. You can keep traveling and you can have your teams based in India. And then look at solving some really grassroots problems in India. There's a lot to learn from each other also. How things are happening here versus how things are happening in India. There's a lot, it is already happening. So I think, that's the great advantage of being here while still being from India.
Karan, one last question, right? So you have built tech and non-tech products. Let's say, for example, Client Superheroes was largely not tech. Of course, they had an online shop, but I think it's largely non-tech. What have you enjoyed building a non-tech product that is just more hands-on? I'm not saying that tech products are not hands-on, but
yeah, I hear you. What I've enjoyed the most is applying technology to non-tech products, non-tech industries. So even while at Planet Superheroes, the constant thought process for all of us was, how do we leverage technology to extract that extra efficiency, to automate certain processes, how to bring in scale? So I'm really passionate about, how we can apply technology to disrupt industries. Some places you might find incremental value. Some places there is absolutely disruptive value that you can create with technology, and that's what I enjoy. And I enjoy applying it in non-traditional, non-tech industries, and sort of rather traditional industries where technology has been a laggard. I mean, people have been sort of slow in adopting technology, because that's where the maximum potential exists. People have been doing things the way they've been for many, many years. And that's when, this is how Amazon created disruption. They didn't come from a traditional retail background. Jeff Bezos wasn't from a traditional retail background, but he disrupted the market, and it became the largest retailer for that matter. So that's what I enjoy the most, and solving real world problems, right? I mean, clean cooking fuel, anti-counterfeiting, these are really big problems to solve. And I think when technology is applied to this, it just changes the scale at which you can create an impact, the scale at which you can solve these problems. And that's extremely satisfying.
I think in a sense, when you put it that way, what we did together at the Alpha Coach is also kind of building technology in a space which has been largely not tech. I mean, fitness coaching has also been not tech. At least when the time we were building the 4 years back, it's been 4 years, yeah. So,
that could be. It's been 4 years, and I really admire Ketan and you guys, to have stuck your ground and still pushing at it, because I still believe this is an important area to solve. Like today, and this is one of the sort of drawbacks of AI, it's making us like couch potatoes. We're sitting here having having an online conversation because we can afford to do that.
Yeah.
But it's really important to keep yourself fit, and a lot of people are now moving back to focusing on good nutrition. There is so much information out there around nutrition, around general wellness and mental health, physical health.
Yeah.
So it's important to cut that, sort of froth out and know what's exactly works for you. And that's where technology, and this is what at Alpha Coach we're trying to do, really customize what works for you. So while I really believe in solving that problem, and technology, I think, can be a huge lever in solving it, scaling it. It's going to take its own time, and
it's going to take time. So when it comes to physical fitness, people are still more comfortable going to a physical center and training. I mean,
and I think I feel, Vishnu, that's also because I think the interfaces are changing now, right? I mean, so far, the only way we can interact with technology is these mobile phones. But now going forward with new technologies coming up, with, you wear glasses. Now, I don't have to hold anything.
Yeah.
I have wearables which can measure so much more. And I think there's going to be a tipping point where I feel fitness is going to reach a level where you will want your wearables and you will want your technology on you when you're working out, because that's going to give you so much more information than your trainer.
Yes.
So instead of having a personal trainer, you're going to have your digital trainer.
Yeah. I mean, those things are at a very nascent stage. I think in the next 2 to 3 years, things are gonna blow up in that space. And if we are, thriving as a business at that time, having 7-8 years of experience dealing with customers at that time, that's when these good benefit fitness startups, like how AI can kind of plug into the startups and really help them also grow it.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks so much, Karan. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for taking out time on a Sunday afternoon and discussing, sharing all this wisdom about the important podcast.
No, happy to. I just shared my experience. How much fit turns into wisdom is it depends on who applies it and how much it helps them. But very happy to be here, and really great to see you guys do this. I'm very supportive of all this, and let's stay in touch.
We'll do this again, Karan. This was really good. We pick up something deeper as a topic. The video was last year light topic. Take some a little bit more deeper and have another conversation soon.
Sure. Absolutely. Great. Thanks for sharing.